This week, China and Vietnam agreed to finish defining their common border by the end of 2008. The African Development Bank meets in Shanghai as Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao reaffirmed China's plans to help the continent. The central bank raises interest rates and lenders' reserves to keep a firm rein on the galloping economy. And the government says it will continue to crack down on illegal foreign mapping. It is an issue of national security. Hello and welcome to China This Week. China and Vietnam issued a joint communique on Friday agreeing to finish tracing their border in 2008. They will sign an agreement on a new border administration system next year. On the South China Sea issue, the two sides pledged to seek solution through peaceful means. The communique was issued during Vietnamese President Nguyen Minh True's state visit to China this week. During talks with his Vietnamese counterpart, President Hu Jintao said China hopes to deepen economic and technological ties with Vietnam. This is a desire shared by Nguyen Minh True, who said his visit aims to enhance bilateral relations and cooperation in many fields. A fishing vessel from Taiwan has been hijacked by pirates off the Somali coast. Local officials say the ship has been forced to head to coastal areas 400 kilometers north of the Somali capital of Mogadishu. No information on the crew members is available yet. Officials say the ship from Taiwan is being held with two South Korean vessels captured Tuesday. The South Korean ships have dozens of Asian crew members, including 10 Chinese. The exact number of abducted sailors has not been confirmed, but an official from Kenya's Seafarers Assistance Program says all the hostages are safe. The Chinese embassy in Kenya is trying to determine the condition of the sailors and secure their release. So far, the pirates have not made any ransom demands. The African Development Bank has opened its annual board meetings in Shanghai. Around 2,000 people attended the opening ceremony. Premier Wen Jiabao addressed the attendants, expressing his hopes that the meetings would boost the bank's influence and enhance China-Africa ties as well. Ma Xuzhi has this report.
Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao said recent years have seen great progress in Sino-African cooperation. During the Beijing summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation last November, China and Africa agreed to establish and develop a new type of strategic partnership. One that featured political equality, mutual trust, win-win economic cooperation and cultural exchanges. They also mapped out a plan for bilateral cooperation for the following 3 years.
We will fully deliver on our commitments and are working with African countries to implement these measures to strengthen Sino-African cooperation. We need to explore new ways to cooperate and enhance current cooperation for our mutual benefit.
It's the first time the annual board meeting of the African Development Bank has been held in Asia. Both China's central bank and the ADB expect that fresh opportunities for Sino-African cooperation will come out of the meeting.
In the context of global economics, the undertaking of poverty relief and the development of Africa is not only a concern for Africa, but for the world.
This said, Africa today stands at a point where several countries have a fair chance of following in Asia's footsteps. The key question must be, how do we consolidate progress, and how should the bank and its partners be responding in order to nurture faster economic growth? That is MDG compatible, it is broad, it is shared, sustained, and sustainable.
Founded in 1964, the ADB has 77 members from Africa, America, Europe, and Asia. China became a member in 1985.
The ADB annual meeting is regarded as a catalyst for Sino-African relations since they forged a new strategic partnership last year. With an ever-expanding economic context, the two sides are taking pragmatic measures for win-win results. The shared goal is to face up to both opportunities and challenges brought by economic globalization. Mao Xuzhi, CCTV, Shanghai.
China launched a communication satellite for Nigeria early Monday morning from the Xichang Launch Center in Sichuan province. This is the first launch of its kind for Africa and the start of a telecom highway for the continent. Zhang Yong has more.
Another launch, the 98th for China's Long March series. It is the first time a foreign buyer has purchased a Chinese satellite and used its launch service. The rocket carried aloft a high-powered communications satellite for Nigeria called NightComSat-1. It will play a big role in communications services for Africa.
The satellite program will help Africa build a telecommunications highway. Governmental departments can set up e-offices. Schools can realize long-distance education. Cities and the countryside can share medical resources.
It also means thousands of new jobs for Nigerians. The country will also save some $660 million in telephone charges. The satellite is expected to be operational for 15 years. It will be handed over to Nigeria before the end of this year. Satellite launching technologies are usually highly confidential, but ongoing training will be provided for Nigerian technicians. This is taken by many as an indication of China's determination to cooperate with developing countries in the peaceful use of outer space. China was awarded the contract in 2004, outbidding 21 international rivals to secure the $311 million deal. With the successful launch of NightComSat-1, new business opportunities are ahead for China's space industry.
We provide services from designing, building to launching and handing over. The series of solutions is beneficial for us to expand into international markets. We'll launch a Venezuela communications satellite in the later half of 2008.
China has launched some 30 foreign satellites since 1985. In a growing space market with several $100 billion, China's competitiveness is expected to help it take off. Zhang Yong, CCTV.
China plans to finish the establishment of a satellite-supported space information system over the next 3 years. The country's biggest satellite maker, China Aerospace Science and Technology Cooperation, says that altogether 60 to 70 satellites will serve the system. They will provide information for things such as radio communication, weather forecasting, and scientific experiments. Next year, a constellation of 3 small satellites will be launched for environmental and disaster monitoring. You're now watching China This Week from CCTV International. Coming up next. A 100-strong student delegation from Yale visits their counterparts at Peking University. And every computer user's nightmare. An update for Norton's antivirus software has machines crashing the length and breadth of the country.
CCTV-9, China's only English-language news channel, broadcasts throughout China and across the globe. CTV Golden Bridge is CCTV International's exclusive advertising agent and can put your company in touch with an audience of millions.
New format, brighter design, easy access, the latest information. Our website offers you the best of CCTV International online. Our new feature, Anchors Blogs, brings you the stories from behind the scenes. And our interactive service allows you to put your comments online, with perhaps even an invitation to join us in the CCTV International studio. Visit english.cctv.com and get more out of CCTV International.
Welcome back to China This Week. China surprised markets with a hike in interest rates and bank reserve ratios, along with a widening of the Chinese currency's trading band. The unprecedented announcements are aimed at managing liquidity and increasing macroeconomy stability. The question remains, is that enough? Wei Yuan has the details.
It's the first time in 10 years that the central bank has adjusted both interest rates and the lenders' reserve ratios at the same time. The one-year deposit rate was raised by 0.27 percentage points and loan interest rate by 0.18. The central bank will also raise the bank reserve requirement ratio by half a percentage point as of June the 5th, while the floating range of the yuan against the US dollar will expand to 0.5% as from Monday. Some analysts believe the interest rate and reserve hikes are aimed at curbing the excessive investment and the speculative bubble on the stock market.
The move will set some barriers for new capital entering the stock market. It also indicates the central bank's growing concern about the heavy flow of capital from banks to the stock market. The market will react on Monday.
However, some industry insiders believe that the anticipated fluctuation in the market will just be a technical blip rather than a result of the interest rate hike. What's more, since the hike is smaller than expected, it may even be seen as an encouragement for the stock market.
The central bank increased 0.27 percentage points, only half of the previously predicted amount. It has eased concern that the central bank may now control the market by some non-market-oriented measures.
The central bank's move triggered different reactions among stock investors. Generally, experienced investors are cautious, while newcomers are optimistic.
I'm not concerned about the interest rate at all. I'm considering to invest more.
I will be cautious. I have experienced a bear market, so I pay attention to the country's policies and adjust my investments accordingly.
Analysts agree that the new move is aimed at preventing the fast-growing economy from overheating, but it's too early to say whether it will be effective. The problems facing China's economy might be too complex to be tackled with a single adjustment. Whether the flow of money from people's bank accounts into the stock market can be reversed remains to be seen. He Yuan, CCTV.
12 Chinese ministries, including the Commerce Ministry and the Foreign Ministry, held a teleconference on Monday to discuss security issues related to investing overseas. By 2006, China had invested more than $73 billion in foreign countries, and the total assets of the over 10,000 overseas Chinese companies had exceeded $270 billion. But unsteady regional security has raised concerns over the safety of Chinese companies and their overseas employees. The ministries pushed for the establishment of warning systems and emergency plans to guarantee the safety of those employees. The ministries also discouraged enterprises from investing in regions with frequent violence. The second meeting of the China-U.S. Strategic Economic Dialogue will be held next Tuesday and Wednesday in Washington, D.C. China's Commerce Ministry spokesman called for the U.S. to lift restrictions on high-tech exports to China and improve trade balance. The country's growth of trade surplus slowed substantially in April. Liu Ying reports.
A Commerce Ministry spokesman said China's trade surplus in April was $16.8 billion. That means the growth rate of the trade surplus slowed by a significant 37% compared to the first quarter of this year. The spokesman said it's the result of China's effective measures to adjust the structure of its exports and to encourage imports. And he said China will continue its efforts in this area. But at the same time, he stressed that the trade surplus will be a long-term issue and will not be resolved soon.
The growth of China's trade surplus is an inevitable result of a global industrial shift. In addition, some countries' high-tech export restrictions against China has restricted growth of China's imports. We think China's trade surplus will exist for a fairly long period.
Wang Xinpei called for the United States to lift its high-tech exports restrictions toward China to facilitate the expansion of Chinese imports. Trade imbalance is expected to be one of the major issues that China and the U.S. will discuss during their second strategic economic dialogue in Washington next week. Despite the slowdown, China's trade surplus continues to expand. It jumped 87% year-on-year to hit $63.3 billion for the first 4 months of this year. A Chinese business delegation led by Vice Commerce Minister Ma Xiuhong is currently in the United States. They are expected to ink purchasing agreements worth billions of US dollars. Trade analysts say the move may help ease tensions between the two countries caused by the rising trade imbalance. And it should also help create a positive environment for next week's strategic economic dialogue in Washington. Liu Ying, CCTV.
100 delegates from Yale University in the United States have visited Peking University. They celebrated the century-long friendship between the two leading schools. Topping their panel discussions was globalization and China-U.S. relations. Wang Mangmang takes a closer look.
Friendship between PKU and Yale has also made their presidents old friends, and the students' understandings about each other goes way beyond academia. They say what they share outweighs differences.
Well, I think the main theme of our trip to China and our experience here and our semester abroad has been a deep cultural collaboration and understanding our Chinese counterparts as individuals and people and how they fit into the context of their society and explaining to them how we fit into the context of our societies. The two different cultures are not as different as a lot of people think. I think that's something that we definitely take away from all of our experiences. We have much more in common than we have that separates us.
Getting to know the culture helps the American guests realize China's role in a global context. The thinkers brainstormed opportunities and challenges facing the China-U.S. partnership. They are confident that the future is in their hands and they can make a difference.
The well-educated students from China, and they probably will be the future leaders of China. And then the Yale students, they probably will be the future leaders of U.S. So that if we get together, know each other at a really early age, and then China and U.S. will be better friends, and then we'll just create a better future.
In terms of what they can do, the students stress the value of innovation, creativity, and more interaction.
In their pursuit of truth, students from the two universities are working to bring about changes to the world, and this passion is transcending diversities in backgrounds. Along with deep academic collaborations between the PKU and Yale, also comes a stronger sense of responsibility to the future of China-U.S. ties. Wang Mangmang, CCTV.
Symantec Corporation's Norton antivirus software has wreaked havoc on computers using the simplified Chinese version of Windows XP. An error in the update has both personal and corporate systems on the blink. Computer users were dismayed to see their machines go into continuous automatic reboot, blue screening, and no access to the safe mode. Experts say the update accidentally deleted two key system documents. Symantec has provided a new update package to correct the problem. Norton accounts for 1/3 of China's antivirus software market, so it is estimated that at least 1 million computer users could be affected. Compensation, however, is still a tricky issue.
China has no specific standards for claiming an indemnity. People use their computers for different purposes, such as playing computer games and trading stocks. As a result, people suffer different losses, and the amount of damages they can claim will not be the same.
And China still lacks laws concerning legal responsibility for information safety. Any enterprises or individuals trying to claim compensation will face complicated and time-consuming legal procedures. China has approved the use of European and American standards for its third-generation mobile phones. Together with China's homegrown system, all three standards will be used in the country. The Chinese government has promised to provide 3G services in time for the Beijing Olympics next year. And China's four major mobile phone operators, China Netcom, China Telecom, China Mobile, and China Unicom, have started preparing for a smooth transition from existing networks. Compared to the older models, the new generation of phones is both faster and safer. They also offer an array of new data processing and multimedia features. The Airbus A320 will be assembled in China from August next year. Construction of the assembly line, a first outside Europe, started on Tuesday in North China's port city of Tianjin. With an estimated investment of $1.3 billion, this is the biggest international joint project for China's aviation industry to date. The annual capacity is expected to reach 44 aircrafts in 3 years. 6 mainland aircraft enterprises are producing parts for the Airbus planes. You're watching China This Week on CCTV International. Still to come. The Thin Green Line. China fights the battle against desertification on the borders of the Gobi and Taklamakan. And the strength of a society is measured by how it treats its least advantaged members. China steps up efforts to help those with special needs. Taiwan authorities have renamed a memorial hall in central Taipei honoring the late Chiang Kai-shek. Saturday's move came less than an hour after pro- and anti-government demonstrators clashed in an adjacent street. The name was changed to the Taiwan Democracy Memorial Hall, but authorities have pledged not to alter the exhibits. Riot police wielding batons dispersed hundreds of Kuomintang supporters who tried to stage a protest. The ruling Democratic Progressive Party has accused Chiang of killing political dissidents on the island in the 1940s. China will continue to crack down on illegal surveying and mapping by foreigners. The government also says it will investigate and punish activities leaking state secrets. Sun Xiaolong reports.
Surveying and mapping involves data on landforms, topography, and geology, valuable information in time of war.
Some top geographical information is significant to national security. If the information were disclosed to foreigners through their illegal surveying and mapping, national security will be endangered.
Last year alone saw nearly 800 cases of illegal surveying and mapping. Many involved foreign organizations and individuals. In April, 4 Japanese were fined 20,000 yuan for illegal activities at Abner Lake in Xinjiang. A year ago, also in Xinjiang, 2 Japanese scholars were deported for mapping the coordinates of an airport and water facilities in Houtian. Their equipment and results were confiscated. A regulation restricting surveying and mapping by foreigners went into effect earlier this year.
Foreigners must cooperate with a Chinese partner if they want to carry out surveying and mapping in China. There should be Chinese present during all activities. The results are owned by China and must not be taken or transmitted abroad without permission.
The official says some foreigners carried out illegal activities while ignorant of Chinese laws, but most were driven by commercial interests. Industry analysts say rising demand for GPS means the market for digital mapping in China could be 10 billion yuan in the next few years. And China's lack of high-resolution data pushes the stakes higher. The chance to cash in, even illegally, is proving irresistible to some. Surveying and mapping can help get precise geographical data that may improve the target striking rates for guided weapons. It's not only in China, but every country in the world that wants to keep coordinates of key infrastructure and geographic information a national secret. Sun Xiaolong, CCTV.
Desertification has become a major issue in China. Deserts now cover over 2.5 million square kilometers, and Zhang Yong looks at efforts to solve this problem.
A world of sand dunes and camels. This is where 2 of the biggest deserts in the world, the Gobi and Taklamakan, meet. For tourists, it's a place to explore nature. But for local people, life is harsh. Wang Youde grew up not far from the sand dunes in Ningxia Autonomous Region in China's northwest. By the time he was a young man, all 10,000 of his neighbors had left the area. But Wang Youde decided to stay to push back the sands.
Right now, we're managing to contain desertification here. More energy is being used to help the land than is going into damaging it. The momentum is being pushed in a positive direction.
The team is irrigating the land and setting up green belts. The goal is to create buffer zones for the desert. The region averages only about 300 millimeters of rain per year, and the average evaporation rate is around 6 times higher. The difference is made up by river and groundwater. China has planted thousands of hectares of vegetation to halt the sands in its north and west. Programs are in place to cover 30% of the country's desert by 2050. Wang Youde says more public involvement is needed.
We need to call on people around the world to protect the earth, protect the ecological balance and the environment. Everyone here has responsibility. We all share the responsibility to protect this world.
His crew plants grids of straw on the dunes. This is to stabilize the shifting sands long enough to plant drought-resistant trees and plants. Each one gets personal attention and care. The efforts have already reduced the severity of regular spring dust storms, and Wang believes a small effort by each can make a big difference in a whole. Zhang Yong, CCTV.
China has been stepping up efforts to meet the special needs of those people with special needs. And in our Qinghai province, the local government has also been joining efforts to provide training and funding for those handicapped. Our reporter Li Na is there and explains the local government's efforts and challenges to support a special school for the deaf and the children it serves.
Yu Zufang and Yan Jinglong enjoy playing games. They are like children elsewhere except for their hearing aids. This language training school in East Qinghai helps the children to hear and speak. Getting familiar with sound is the first step. Though the school now looks good, it has experienced harsh times. It was set up 16 years ago, but lacked funds at that time. The families of kids couldn't afford the fees, and the local governments couldn't bear the burden. As a result, the school had no permanent location and was forced to move 13 times in 16 years. Teachers say several colleagues left the school because there is little pay.
Some relatives also advised me to quit, and I was once hesitated to quit or stay. But my family members support me, so I stayed. Though we were not well paid, compared to the kids here, we're much luckier. Thus I hold on.
As the local economy develops, more attention is paid to the disabled. Local governments make great efforts to support the school. Some social groups and individuals have also donated money to the school.
The local government has allocated funds to the school to buy a settled place and to pay the teachers regularly. It also works to create favorable conditions for the school's development.
Through years of effort, the school helped several students learn to hear and speak. Some students are now grown up and married. Currently, 20 kids study here. They only need to pay 200 yuan for each semester. For some students from poorer families, the local government covers their fees. And for teachers, they now have better welfare and regular salary. When asked about the future, the teachers are quite confident, but they also admit money remains a problem, and they are looking forward to more support, not only from the government, but also from society. Li Na, CCTV.
Well, that's China This Week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Zhou Yue. Goodbye.